Today we are looking at a figure to one of my all-time favorite movies, and might be one for a lot of you new fans who have never, ever even heard its name uttered. Today we are looking at Toho's take on another classical monster. Yes, it is Frankenstein. I like saying it like that. That's how I do it, people. So this is one of the earliest Bandai premiums ever made. And to this day, I still cannot believe that this guy exists, and we're going to talk about him because, my God, do I love Frankenstein Conquers the World. So for those of you who might be new to this fandom and you've never seen Frankenstein Conquers the World, oh my goodness, you are missing out. This is one of the most bonkers films ever made, and I love every single second of it. And a fun fact, it is the prequel, if you will, to War of the Gargantuas. So it's one of the non-Godzilla entries that is actually considered a Godzilla entry, because it is also the debut of Baragon, who would go on to show up briefly in Destroy All Monsters, but have a much bigger role in GMK. But Baragon didn't fight Godzilla at first. He fought Frankenstein. And you might be wondering, how in the hell does Frankenstein fight giant monsters? Well, that is the wonder and beauty of this movie. See, Frankenstein is an immortal monster. His heart continues to live forever. And during the last days of World War II, his heart was shipped from Germany to Japan, where it unfortunately got bombarded by radiation from the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. And over the next 2 decades, it would grow into this monstrous creature that you see before you. Scientist Nick Adams finds him and wants to study him because he might unlock the key to immortality, but also understands Frankenstein is just a misunderstood monster, isn't he always? Meanwhile, there is another beast causing havoc amongst the Japanese countryside, and that turns out to be Baragon. And inevitably, these two clash in the forests of Japan, which leads to Baragon and Frankenstein meeting head to head in a battle to see who lives and who dies. I'm not going to spoil the rest for you because it is an awesome movie. It's quietly one of Honda's best works, in my opinion. I know a lot of people will probably think that's blasphemy, but this movie is so out there, so creative, that you can't help but love it. Even Guillermo del Toro has cited his love for this movie on several occasions. But we're not talking about the movie in general. We're talking about this figure, which is, I believe, the second or third Bandai premium to ever be produced, back in about 2017, 2018. As you can see, he is of a deeper quality than the regular Bandais that we put out at the time. The paint job alone and the sculpt is of a higher quality. So this is Frankenstein at his full height, which I think was about 50 feet at the time. As you can see, he's standing on the box because this is the one downside to this figure. I'll show you. You stand him up. There you go. That's my only problem with this thing. Now you might be wondering, what's in the box? Well, this is the Bandai Premium Touch. This is how they started shipping everything, and they still ship stuff like this as well in a shipper box. So, as you can see, pretty standard. It's got the, I think it's upside down there. There we go. So the wording, and pretty much when you open them up on the inside, as you can see, this is how Baragon was packed. Came wrapped up in some bubble wrap, but he was also a carded figure. Now this is a big thing with Sofubis. They love their carding, and this was one of the first times Bandai bothered to card figures like this. They come in these packagings. So he still has the tag, which I'll show you in a minute, but a header card, well, for collectors, this is a separate golden piece in of itself. As you can see Baragon, Frankenstein clashing. On the back, you get the title, all the legal mumbo jumbo. So this is how he came. So when I opened him up for the first time, that's how I got him. Now, mind you, I got this thing a about going on 6-7 years ago now. So it's not one of those fresh out of the box, but this is the Koffers. We do look at older fun stuff as well. But let's talk about the toy itself. As you can see, he stands roughly about 6 inches, which is on par with the rest of the current Movie Monster series line. So he doesn't stand out too hard from your other more modern Bandais, but he does have a far better sculpt. I will say that the current sculpts that Bandai offers for their standard figures do not match up to what this is. I mean, considering that this is not a suit, this is literally a man in makeup in the film, they did a darn good job. I mean, they got the brow pretty well, the mangled teeth, the kind of dead-eyed look, and all the scarring. So those brown spots are supposed to represent like radiation scars in the film. So the legs are solid. There is limited, very, very limited articulation to this guy. Pretty much only at the shoulder joints. But all you really need him to be is in a battle-ready pose to take on his arch nemesis Baragon. Like I said, the figure itself is fantastic. The one problem with Bandai Premium that they introduced was a higher price point. He was $75 upon his initial release. I think I paid close to $100 for him. But you know what? I love me my Frankenstein, and I needed this guy in my collection. Up until this point, there weren't a lot of Frankenstein figures. I think X Plus had maybe done one, and a couple of model companies, but to see Bandai finally bring this guy to vinyl life was a dream come true, and still to this day remains one of my absolute favorite figures of all time. Quick, let me show you what a Bandai Premium card at the time looked like. So it's still attached. So there is Frankenstein as he appears in the movie, getting ready to clash with Baragon. So this is actually a stockier tag. It's actually very reminiscent of the old Bandai vinyl tags from the late 80s, early 90s. I think on the back, unfortunately, Frankenstein does not get his own logo, which to this day is still a shame. But there you go. That is the card for this guy. And there you guys go. That is the Bandai Premium Frankenstein. Hopefully, if you're watching this video and you've never seen this movie, you'll go track this thing down and watch it. I do believe it's streaming out there somewhere, but the DVD is not that hard to get a hold of, and it's still relatively priced that it's not going to break the bank to own. It is a magnificent Toho film. I would highly recommend any of you who have never seen it to go watch it. And if you have seen it, go back and rewatch it again, because it's awesome. It's amazing. I actually got to see it in theaters. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I love this movie. I love this figure. What more can I say? So we'll bring it to an end there. Remember, if you like what you see, we do have a show. It is called The Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. We are at thekaijukingdompodcast.com. And if you don't like to download, well, we are also streaming on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you get finer podcasts. And when you subscribe to our feed, you also get our sister show, Common Kaisers, where we talk about all kinds of cool tokusatsu adjacent movies and shows. We're also on Instagram at the Kaiju Kingdom, X at the Kaiju Kingdom, and Facebook.com/the Kaiju Kingdom Podcast. And that'll do it for this edition of the Koffers. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.